Huge tax cuts for seniors under Trump's tax bill. And people are going to scream bloody murder because they already did in the video I did yesterday. But yeah, Trump. People who hated Trump, who hate Trump, blah, blah, blah. They don't like his Trump tax bill. They don't like the fact, oh my goodness, they never voted for Trump, but then Trump proposed getting rid of taxes on Social Security. And now those same people who hated Trump, who voted against him anyway, are bashing Trump because it's not in the bill. Well, there's a second part of this. So let's take a look here. So we're going to look at some of the comments from the video I did yesterday, because my man Rugrats right here. Unfortunately, Rugrats is like the worst cartoon ever. You should have been watching Teen Titans Go and the Amazing World of Gumball Rugrats. But anyway, my man says, or my lady, I don't know, my lady? He goes, I'm not really on board with the no overtime tax. The no tax on Social Security is much more important to help seniors who really need it. And I agree with that. But then he goes down here and says, we don't really pay that much tax at all compared to a lot of other countries. We are blessed to live in the US of A. I completely agree. And here's a guy, John Dickinson. No tax on Social Security. That should be done. A tax on a tax. F you. I don't know if he's saying, there's a couple of people out of bank because they're even worse than this guy. But I'm sure John Dickinson voted for Trump. All right. The whole thing's so stupid. F you. Who's he F? Whatever. Anyway, so I had to ban a couple people because they were just idiotic in this. All right. So let's go to Right Capital. All right. So we're going to go to Right Capital and we're going to look at Diane Sample. And we're going to show you what her cash flow looks like here. And I just want to push now. Diane Sample is over the age of 65, right? Oh, by the way, I think my man right here, I think he posted. So Jank8197 said they are proposing a higher standard deduction for seniors to reduce taxes. So while John Dickinson is, griping in his cave someplace in his mom's house, Jank is saying this is what's reality is. They're proposing the sun's coming out. They're proposing a higher standard deduction, and Jank gets it. So let's take a look here. So we see that the 2025 tax brackets. Oh, I got a puppy just laying there, so quiet. You get 10% tax on your AGI of 11 for single people, 11,600. So if you make up to 11,600 of AGI, that's after standard deduction, which we'll get in here in just a second. You pay 10% of that. The next amount of money from 11,601 above, you pay 12% up to $47,000. That's important to remember, all right? So we're going to go to, what's her name? Diane Sample here, Diane Sample. And she has RMD income. We're just using RMDs for simplicity of $40,650. $40,650 is her required minimum distribution. That's how much she's subject to tax, her RMD. Now we're going to look, you'll see she pays $2,600 in taxes. So we'll go to our 1040, go to details here, and you can see here's our $40,650. That's her gross income. Because she's over the age of 65 and she's single, she has a standard deduction of $17,000 in 2025. All right. So her AGI, her taxable income, is $23,650. All right. So here's her gross income. That's her AGI. Subtract from your AGI your standard deduction, and she has a taxable income of $23,650, for which she has to pay $2,600 on. Again, because the first $11,600 is subject to 10%. Anything above that, up to $47,000, is subject to 12%. All right, everybody with me on that so far? So she has to pay $2,600 on $40,000 of gross income. Now, I just want to point something out here, too. The same idiots who gripe about Trump will say, I got a tax increase for Trump, and because these people just don't know what they're talking about. Here's what happens if Trump's tax bill goes away, the TCJA, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. Diane Sample's income tax goes to $4,006 from $2,600. All right, so that's almost a 50% increase. And why is that? Because look at line 12 and line 11. Standard deduction is $17,000. Line 11, that's line 11. Line 12, where personal exemptions will be, is zero in 2025. But in 2026, if we don't get this extended, personal exemptions will revert back to where they were pre-Trump. So she has $17,000 of total deductions here. All right, if we go to 2026 and we get rid of the Trump tax bill and go back to pre-Trump, she'll have a standard deduction of line 12, $8,000, and a personal exemption of $4,200. So 8 plus 4,200, that's 13,000 roughly. All right, that means she has 4,000 less of deductions. Interesting. So, but even Trump's tax bill, even if it just goes the same way as it is now, she'll save big money from where she will be if we don't get this extended. But with Trump's bill, which proposes an increase of the standard deduction for seniors with AGI is less than 75,000 for singles and less than 150 for married people, she'll get an extra $4,000 standard deduction. So we take our trusty piece of paper and we take our trusty pen and we say her standard, her right there, 40,650, as you can see right there. That is her gross income. She has now a 17,000 standard deduction, but I'm giving her a 21,000 standard deduction. So we subtract her total income minus her standard deduction. That gives her taxable income of 19,650. The first 11,600 is subject to 10% tax. The next amount, 8,050, is subject to 12%. So we get 11,600 times 10 is 1,160 is her total tax. 8,050 times 12 is 960 is her total tax. You add these two together, her total tax is $2,126 compared to $2,600 without the $4,000 of standard deduction. So the $4,000 in standard deduction netted her almost $500 of less taxes to pay. It's the equivalent of basically a $500 tax credit, which is an 18.2% reduction in her total taxes paid. That's off this current tax year. It's a 100%, not 100%, it's a 50% reduction relative to where it will be if Trump's tax bill expires outright. That's a huge savings for lower income seniors. Now, I'm just curious, I didn't do this, but let's just add Social Security. We'll say she just gets the average benefit of Social Security. I didn't do this, so we're going to do it off the fly because it's fun. All right, so in this case, I added $18,000 of Social Security income. Her taxes went from $2,600 to $4,400. All right, and if we go to 1040, so basically, well, let's just look at it here. So we add $18,000. I'm going to go to cash flows of Social Security income, and increase her taxes by $1,800. So it's a 10% increase essentially in taxes. $18,000 of extra income, her taxes went up by basically $1,800. That's a 10% effective tax rate or marginal tax rate in that regard. Anyway, so let's go back to the 1040 and see how that shook out. And we're going to see right here. So we got a 40,000 RMD distribution, 15,000 is her taxable Social Security, not 18,000 because she has 85% isn't subject to tax, which puts her her total income at $55,000. All right. So she has $58,000 of spending power, but because the first 15% of Social Security is tax free, her total income is $55,000. Subtract out the standard deduction. Her taxable income now is $38,000, and I forgot what it was before. It was 1 second. It was before. It's $23,650. So it increased her taxable income. Yeah, there you go. By the exact amount of taxable Social Security. Okay, what I'm saying. So now she got to pay $44.36 in taxes. I'm just curious. Let's see how much you have to pay next year if the Trump tax bill goes away. $63.56. So a significant increase in taxes, told Diane. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take 55. Is that 55,950, and we're going to subtract that by her new standard deduction. So let me pause real quick. What that does is it has a tax right there of $39.62 compared to $44.36. So again, that almost the exact same scenario. So the same scenario is that $4,000 standard deduction increase is essentially a $500 tax credit. So she'll get a tax savings of $500 here. That's better than a freaking hole in the head. Now, is it the best thing that could happen? Because you see 44.36, 39.62 is what I calculated. No, we don't. We'd like to get no tax on Social Security outright. I wish they would do a standalone bill. I hope they do. I hope they present that as a standalone bill. But there you go. So she's getting a significant tax deduction or credit, essentially, or tax reduction of. But in this case, it's what do we say? Between 15 and 20%, essentially. That's real money, dude. That's what 2 months of Medicare, 3 months. Yeah, 3 months of Medicare Part B premiums. I mean, if you don't want it, send it to me. I'll take it there whatever's that guy, the clown guy who told me to F you. What's this guy? Some people said fake news too, by the way. This guy, John Dixon, you don't want that. Take it. I'll send it to me, dude. I will happily take your cash. Here's Dan the man. You forgot to increase our national debt by $4 trillion. Oh my goodness. The national debt. I just love when people scream bloody murder about the national debt when their guy is out of office. The whole thing's just so stupid, dude. We're never paying off the debt. It's never going to happen. And I was reading this article the other day by some fools, and I was like, who was it? I can't remember. I posted on my LinkedIn or my X or Facebook, probably all of them. They're like, what they say? The increases of national income to foreigners, which that's what it was. Let me see if I can't find it because it was so stupid. I was like, what? Yeah, that's George Callis. He's very callous from the Tax Foundation. American incomes measured by GNP will increase by less than 0.05% because of the deficit of the bill. As interest payments on the debt made to foreigners increase, American incomes decrease. As interest payments to foreigners increase, American incomes decrease. And I said, how about the increased interest payments to the Americans who own the vast majority of American debt? So as interest incomes to foreigners increase, that also means interest incomes to Americans increase by a significant factor. What? 5 to 1 at the very minimal, George. Anyway, I just thought this was interesting. Coward mom who beat daughter to death refuses to come to court to learn her punishment. I've said BLM to riot in 3, 2, 1. Oh yeah, the perp isn't white, so no one's going to care. No one cares about her because the perp isn't white. But if the perp was white, that'd be all over the place. Of all the things that Trump, right, 100%. Of all the things that Trump has done, perhaps the most important is they force our enemies to go full mask off. Yep, 100%. The Episcopal Church has announced it will end its decade-old partnership with the government to resettle refugees. All because the whites they got to resettle. This whole thing's so stupid. Oh, by the way, countries that have been hit hardest by the Depression grew faster in 1930 with high tariffs and low tariffs. I mean, there's a couple of guys from Harvard saying that. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And then, of course, Republicans are posting stuff in Spanish and English on their website. I'm like, dude, didn't Trump just sign an executive order making everything English? It's just Republicans. Can you just get out of your own way for once? Anyway, hopefully they'll do this here. So I'm excited. It's not perfect. Ain't no tax bill perfect. And if you guys are waiting for perfection, you're going to be depressed people. You take the wins when you get them, fools. Take the wins. Say W. Because if Trump did not win, not only did we not get this extra $500 tax credit, essentially, we're going the other way, paying a 100% increase in taxes. Take the W. Nice, God bless. Love your thoughts. Smash that like button.